Is this on? Okay, very good. All right. Since we don't have a lot of people, so I don't assume that we have a lot of questions, so I'm going to take my time to read my, sorry, my statement. So I assume that most of you know who I am, Mei Hong of the Chinese Culture Connection. The Chinese Culture Connection's mission is to help our immigrants, particularly Asian and Chinese, to retain their cultural heritage and while empowering their confidence to navigate their American life so that they can become productive and contributing member of our society. And we are supported by Massachusetts Cultural Council. This is like operation support, and also by the Ada de Bea Foundation. This event is a collaborative effort among Chinese Culture Connection, the American Association for Arabic Women, Bread of Life, Mass Senior Action Council, Malden Reads, and the North Shore Hispanic Association. Our collaborators are non-political grassroots organizations with a shared mission to empower our community via cultural and civic education. As we know, government policies can significantly impact the quality of our lives. This public forum is a part of our East Meets West Cultural Dialogue series, an ongoing civic engagement education effort to help voters make informed decisions in the coming election. We hope you will learn more about the candidates and what they will do for the city of Malden. So now let's welcome our tonight's moderator, Suat Akib. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. And welcome to another Candidates Forum. I will start by explaining some procedures for the forum, which each candidate should receive ahead of time. You will have 2 minutes for the opening statement, 1.5 minutes for the closing statement, and 2 minutes to answer each question from the panel and the audience. The order of the opening statement, question and answer, and closing statement have been chosen at random. The order will be reserved between each round and question. We will have 4 questions that will be given by members of the civic event planning organization. And these 4 questions are for all participants to answer. There will be time to questions from audience to be answered by specific candidates or all the candidates. Nick will be the timekeeper. He's sitting up front. When there is half minute left on your speaking time, the timekeeper will hold up a green card, say 30 seconds, indicating that you have 30 seconds to finish your answer. At 10 seconds, the timekeeper will hold up the yellow card that says 10 seconds. Please stop talking when you see the red stop card. If you continue speaking after that, the stop card is held up. I will say thank you and move on to the next candidate. Some final ground round rules for all in the attendance here. You are encouraged to submit questions for the candidates on the provided index card. Please raise your hand. If there is any other index card, like the volunteers will pick up from you. And they will have that question collected. Please note, if you would like a question to be answered by all candidates or by the specific candidate you would like to direct the question to. The civic event planning panel will review the questions for eligibility clarity, and applicability to all candidates. I will read as many questions as time allows, which is the panel will be reading them. Please note that you will be meeting again at a couple of weeks for another meeting with the school council candidates via Zoom. And if you like, you can register through the CCC Cultural Council Connection on their website. So if we don't get to answer all the questions, we can have them answered that day. Please turn off cell phones and beeping watches now. We request that you will treat all candidates fairly. Please remain quiet throughout the forum. No clapping, no cheering, or calling out, with exceptions that after their closing statement, you may clap and do whatever you want to your favorite candidate. And no campaign literature or signs are allowed inside this room. UMA will be broadcasting the event tonight, and we have Chinese interpretation if someone needs it. So you have 2 minutes for your opening statement, and we're gonna start with Mr. McDonald.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Kerry McDonald. I'm a Malden City Councilor at large, and I'm really excited to be here. When I ran for office the first time 2 years ago, this forum was online, so this is my first in-person forum. I'm really pumped about it, if you can tell. And when I ran last time, I focused on 3 things: getting the basics right in this job, empowering our community voices, and tackling citywide issues. And I've worked every day to live up to those promises. We've focused on basic city services like making sure we're paving our roads. We've appropriated $11 million more in road paving in the last few years, and removing lead lines that are going into homes, millions more for that as well. When it comes to empowering community voices, I've focused on language access, making sure that we have resources for live interpretation for meetings like this, and supporting our language access coordinator, and engaging dialogue around with our public safety officials through creating a new police community advisory council. And in tackling citywide issues, climate change and climate action have been at the top of my agenda. The kind of storms that we've had this summer are going to continue, and so we need to be ready to protect our community and do our part to protect the planet. So in my day job, I'm a nonprofit executive. I have worked in state government. I'm glad that I can bring those skills to this role in city council. I've also learned a lot in my first term, and 2 years goes very quickly. So if I'm given a second term, I really want to focus on continuing the things that we've started, finishing our climate action plan that we've begun for the city, making sure that our Racial Equity Commission, I'm a liaison to that, delivers its plan, and also looking at new things like making sure we have sustainable city finances and housing that people can afford. So thank you all for hosting this forum. Thank you all for being here. It really matters. And thank you to our other panelists, my colleagues, and the facilitators for this forum tonight.
Yeah, you will be next, Mr. Desari. Yeah.
My name's Dante DeSerio, lifelong resident of Malden, former letter carrier for 30 years, and I'm running for councilor at large to make Malden a better city than it already is. I like Malden, I love Malden, and I ran a few times before and never made it, and I was retired, so I said, give it up, take a rest, so that's what happened. But one day I got a letter in the mail stating this big construction outfit's going to do a job near your house. If you have any questions, call. So I did that. I called. And the reason why I called was the sidewalk in front of my house was fine. There wasn't a scratch. Well, maybe a few, but there wasn't a crack. It was in good shape. It would have lasted another 10 years easy. A month later, they dig it up, and they put black asphalt down. And when you're at a place for 70 plus years, and it's okay, you almost get offended, like, you know what I mean? Why did they bother doing this? For what reason? But anyways, it might sound kind of crazy why you should run for office because of that, but it's like I tried going through different channels. I got a bunch of crickets, okay? So, therefore, I said to myself, look, you ran before, try it again. You got nothing to lose. And so I'm happy to be here tonight, happy to see all you people interested in politics, and I hope you'll consider voting for me next month. Hope you enjoy the night.
Yes, Mr. Spadafora, you
I'm ready. You guys ready at the time? I don't know if you had a reset. Good evening, everybody. My name's Craig Spadafora. I'm a counselor at large. First, I want to thank everybody, the panel, the panelists, the audience for coming out. It's not often you get to people come out of their house we're lucky we get the council chambers filled on a Tuesday, but it's an important topic, the future leaders of the city. I've been lucky enough and proud to be a city council for going on 9 terms. It's been great. It's been a journey, but I can tell you Malden, where it is right now, is not by accident, and it's not by one councilor. If somebody tells you that, they're lying. It is really there's a long-term plan, there's short-term goals, but it's really about teamwork. And in my past, I've worked with a lot of great councilors. I work with a ton of great councilors now. Councilor McDonald hit a lot of the things that I would also have said it too, in terms of the focus the last couple of years has been on our aging infrastructure, from lead pipes to our school buildings to affordability, but even looking at companies such as Honeywell to update our programs in our school systems, but also the investment in our staff. We've moved City Hall, the physical building, but now we've seen a greater investment into training and the diversification of our City Hall. And that has made it's much more accessible, certainly for the community. It's much easier for us as staff there to work with those staff members that can help us reach out to those different groups and communicate with them more effectively. But the hard work is really continuing now. Affordability is something we certainly have to tackle. The streets and sidewalks is something that it will never end. But more importantly, I think the housing structure, the tax diversification is something we need to continue. And that is not a one-person job. That is not a one-mayor job. That's a councilor. And one thing I've always brought here is an open mind and be willing to work with anybody in that council, because at the end of the day, you need 6 or 8 votes to get things accomplished, and we've accomplished a lot in the last several years. So please consider me one of your 3 votes in November. Thank you.
So, good evening, everyone. I have some written notes here because I saw the last forum and everyone was getting cut off left and right. So, I want to start off by thanking our Suad, our moderator, and the Chinese Culture Connection, and all of the sponsors and everyone here. My name is Karen Cologne Hayes, and I've had the honor of serving our city as councilor at large for this past term, and I'm running for re-election. Over the past 30 years, I have worn many hats in Malden. No matter what I was doing, however, the one thing always remained true. It was my love for this commitment and for this community and my commitment to this community. When my husband and I first came to the Boston area, we were looking for a place to live. We had our first list of must-haves, and we were looking for something near public transportation. We wanted to have a walkable neighborhood. We wanted to be close to green space, because both of us love hiking and we love the outdoors. And most importantly, we wanted a place that we felt welcome. At our first visit to Malden, we knew Malden, it had it all. This was it felt like home, and we loved it. We found an affordable apartment, remember, 30 years ago, and that allowed us to save, and eventually we were able to buy a home. I'm thankful that we moved when we did, because now it might not be attainable. So much has changed since I first came to Malden all those years ago, and yet so much of what originally brought me here remains. The people I've met, the friendships I've forged, and the sense of community. But we need to work to preserve this. We've allowed too many luxury apartments to be built without a plan to keep Malden affordable. We're going to lose and push out the people that make it great here, our diverse people. To continue to be welcoming, we need to increase language access, we need to expand our inclusionary zoning, and we need to make sure we're preparing ourselves for our future so our family can do exactly what we did when we moved here. So please, I'll look for your vote on November 7th.
Thank you, Karen. And once again, we will have 2 minutes to answer each question. So we're going to start with the jury on the city council priorities. The order will be, no, that's fine. I will come to that. So
Thank
go
you,
ahead,
Sue.
read the question.
Okay. Thank you all. My name is Jody Zalk. I am a representative, co-facilitator for Malden Reads. And the first question this evening is, what do you see as the priority for the city council for the coming year? And how would you envision this being implemented?
So we're going to start with Mr. McDonald.
Thanks for the question. I want to first say that, you can't just focus on any single one thing. The city has so many issues, and they happen all the time. People are calling us constantly, and so we need to have multiple priorities. But I also think that we can find areas where we as individual counselors can have impact. So let me just say, one of the areas I focused on a lot that I think is huge for the future of our community is climate action. It is really an existential threat to Malden. If you look at the flood maps from 30, 40 years from now, the kinds of rains and storms that we've seen this summer are going to continue. Flooding, hot summers. This is really about the future of our community. And so this is something that, work started before I got here, but I've been really proud to carry that on as an advocate and make sure first we have a climate action plan that we've started with all kinds of community engagement. So that's due to be completed in the spring. That's a citywide comprehensive plan about what we can do to, one, protect our community from rising temperatures and worsening storms, and two, make sure that we're doing our part to lower greenhouse gases and protect the planet. So that means more energy efficient buildings. The council has a role in approving building codes. It means making sure we have grants and support from the state and the federal government for our infrastructure. Some of my colleagues have worked on that. We need to continue to work on those pieces. And it means engaging the community in conversations about resilience and how we engage kids and families through the schools in understanding what's happening to our neighborhood, what's happening to our planet. It means planting trees, which is something that a lot of people care about in this city. We have a wonderful tree warden. We need hundreds, thousands of more trees to improve our air quality, to improve the neighborhoods, because trees are not evenly distributed throughout the city. Wealthier neighborhoods tend to have better trees, right? So we always have to take that climate equity lens as well. So I'll be proud to keep working with my colleagues. Yes, City Council is a team sport, absolutely, and it's something that I will continue to focus heavily on if given a next term. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Desario.
Yes, talking about the climate and stuff, I think the looks of things are sort of going backwards. Like, for instance, what they did to the sidewalk, okay? Now, like I had a gray asphalt sidewalk, concrete, and then they put like black asphalt. Now, I'm not like an environmentalist, but I do believe that black draws more heat than a regular gray concrete, all right? So like, did they look into this? Now, I know it's the state that did that, but the state too, professes all this climate stuff, and I'm all for it. But the thing is, they have to do things before actually doing things. It sounds kind of weird, but like they put that black asphalt down, like I say, it draws more heat than a gray concrete, all right? Now recently, near Dever Park, park was a good park, and I believe that there was a lot of money spent wastefully, because a park is a park. Come on, it's just a field of grass. You can do anything you want, football, baseball, soccer, whatever. Now I saw them put another asphalt walkway in there. You can walk around the park on a walkway. I mean, what was the sense of that? Things have to make sense, and I'm common sense type, you know what I mean? I don't know, I just don't get it, you know what I mean? I'm all for climate and stuff and saving the environment, but it seems like we're not following through on these things. That's about it.
Thank you. Mrs. Spadafora, go ahead.
Thank you. It's a great question in terms of next year, but I don't think there's anything other than, I think, a simple process that can happen in a full council year. I think what the council has to do is look 3 to 5 to 10 years out. That's when our merits, that's when our ordinances, that's when our budgets really take effect. And for me, I think this is where the question that you get individual character passion from the council is something I put forward last night, and it's passionate to me, is the complete master plan for the city of Malden. And what that means is not only protecting the very essence of the livability for all residents, but it also means protecting the essence and distinct characteristics of our neighborhood. Our neighborhoods are our lifeblood. That's where most of our residents live. Not saying the square is not, but it's very important to keep that housing stock where it is. But that also means a diversification in your tax base. Right now, Malden is about 89% residential. That means there's only 10% left for industrial and commercial. That is not a lot compared to our cities to the left and the right. They're high 30s, sometimes high 40s. Why is that important? Industrial and commercial pay higher tax rate, which in essence makes it cheaper for the residents to keep that tax base down. That's why communities like Saugus is very cheap to live, because they have that commercial corridor. Now, my answer is not to tear down every building in the city of Malden. What I think is a master plan that's distinctive by the city's neighborhoods. In areas such as Council Winslow's always said, the bike path, we have to look at that. Developing along the river to have more commercial space, walkability, green space, etc. Somerville's done a great job of this. If you notice what's going on, some of them now, they're adding lab space. I'm not saying to add lab space, because I think we're a little far behind in that. That ship's already sailed. But you look at downtown Malden now, we're trying to get some jobs for residents, building that commercial space to keep the tax base high, because we want to be able to keep the people in this room affordable to live here. And my future will be looking to get that master plan started and finished by the end of the year. Thank you.
This is a very great question, and I can easily pick one. I'll tell you what I was thinking in my head. It was affordable housing, transparency, public schools. Those are all top issues. However, affordable housing, without a doubt, is the most talked about topic here. It is something that has caught my attention 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I'm actually looking out to a few of you that I actually worked with, the Mass Senior Action Council. We tried to put forth an inclusionary zoning 10 years ago, because I do agree with my counselor here that it does take 5 to 10 years, but that's why we should have started back then, and hopefully we wouldn't have been in this problem that we're in. Also, in my personal life, I'm part of the North Shore Housing Corp, where we work to build affordable housing here in Malden, and we are working and partner with the Bread of Life, and there's going to be 14 new affordable housing coming up soon. And so I do this in my public life, I do it in my private life. This is extremely important. It's why I opened up with what I opened up with, that I want to make sure that our city stays the way it is, that you're all not going to be priced out, that our seniors can have a place to live here, that they don't have to sell their homes and move elsewhere because they can't afford it here. So what I think that we need to do is, with that inclusionary zoning, I don't think it's enough. I think we need to expand it. Sometimes I look at a lot of the people that are building here, and our developers are using the fund. So they would rather pay into the fund rather than building the affordable houses, aside from the first one that we just have coming up in, at the Salvation Army. But aside from that, we need to have them incentivize people to use and actually build those affordable housings, because we don't have the space for it. So that is, I feel, the biggest thing that is happening right now in Malden that we need to focus on now. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And question number 2 is coming from Gladys Rivera. It's about language access. Gladys, you ready? And Karen, you will start after her. We start with you.
Good evening. My name is Gladys Rivera Rogers, and I'm president of the North Shore Hispanic Association. I hope the answer is not as long as the question that I have here, so I don't want to bore you as I ask this question. How do you plan to support the mayor in funding language access in Malden, not only pertaining to City Hall services, but at all community events that impact our constituents? For context, many elected officials are using the language office as a blanket example of increasing language access around the city. However, we know that the office is currently being run on a limited ARPA fund and only has one employee, which could lead to possible burnout, considering how much work goes into translation and interpretation. We also know that there are often times where translations on the city website and flyers are incorrect and lack cultural relevance, and there is a lack of dialogue and interpretation at important events for constituents. Like this one, some organizations were denied the use of live translators provided by the city. We would like to hear how you would be able to find the office to allow for more dialogue on our foreign-born population, which is sitting at over 40% of Malden residents.
Thank you, Gladys.
Thank you.
And we're going to start with Ms. Hayes.
Thank you so much. You're right. That was a lot. I had to start writing down notes to be sure I remembered what to answer. But language access is something that is extremely important. It's important. It's been important for a long time, and I love some of the things that the city has been doing, and we've been a part of that. But without having access to your language, you are disconnected from this community, you're disconnected from city services, and you're not having your best life here. So we need to do better. And I do know that we have a lot of language access services have come from the ARPA money, you're right, and we all know that ARPA money is going away, so we do have to start planning on how we're going to do this. I was disappointed, and not anybody here, that there isn't translation going on tonight, and so I don't, oh, there is. Oh, hi. Okay, so just one. That's great, because I do know that was an issue with the last language access with the last forum. So hiring Elena Martinez was probably one of the best things that we have done in the city for language access, but you're right, she's one person. And I do know that to look out for other funds, that the state has a procurement contract that we can look on there. I know that there's money out there to start looking forward and making sure that we're providing people that can help, go out into our community. There's not, we can't expect everybody to come here and learn. We have to go into the community where our people are. And that's the only way that we're going to do that. So we need more than one person, and we need to have funding to hire a team. And I know that the language ambassadors, you are one of them, and they're having some youth, and I think that's fantastic, but I also think that you should pay people for their work. So we're going to need to find some funding for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Mrs.
Thank you. This is a question that we started talking about when we built City Hall in terms of signage, and I know it sounds very basic, but the challenge we had on the building committee is when you have over 80 languages, you can't have 80 signs in different languages. You would have a marquee that looks like the airport. So that's one of the challenges. The diversity and the melting pot of Malden is a great thing, but it comes with that immense amount of dialects and languages. Even when we've done public meetings, we've found money to pay for it, we couldn't cover everybody in that meeting. So realistically, I don't think anybody has solved this challenge. I don't think anybody has. I was looking at this because I've known that we've got complaints about the city's website. The state of Mass uses Google Translate because the simple reason is there's no way to do such a diverse lineup. It doesn't mean we don't solve it. My answer is using technology, but that's half the battle. I think what we've done in City Hall in terms of when we have the people have gone past their career and they're retired, we've hired people that speak different languages, and those people have been the greatest asset, I know, to the city council, and certainly the people. Sitting in the clerk's office where I get to sit all the time, you see people come up. We have different ethnicities there that made that transition so much easier. We need to do more of that. I look across here, I know there's diversity. People need to run for office. They really need to redo school committee. That's part of it. The other thing is, obviously, money's the root of everybody's cause here. There is never enough. The idea of adding a tax to the residents, it's kind of counterintuitive to affordability. So that's why I go back to we got to look at commercial, industrial, bringing that tax base up, and maybe by having those resources here, or a part of, Cambridge has got a lot of schools, having those schools come here. We have those resources. I don't think there's any one answer. I don't think there's any one polling source or source of revenue, but there's much more that we can do. Thank you.
The way I'd go about the thing with languages is I'd ask for volunteers. And like everybody knows, there's a lot of different languages here in Malden. But if we could just get volunteers to volunteer sometime, I think it would show people that they care, number one. And number two, it would be something to do. You want to learn English, and at the same time, English could learn another language. It's like a little school type of thing. And I think if a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of smart people around, and, you know, I'm sure they'd be able to put in an hour or two whenever. And, hey, even if you can pick up a couple of words at a time, it's a plus. So I'm asking for people to volunteer, and that'd be a great thing for Malden. And forget about the money. Be a volunteer. That's basic. Here you go.
Thanks. I so appreciate this question because when it comes to language access, what's at stake is whether you can be a full member of this community or not. Malden's diversity is, in fact, something we have to not just talk about, but invest in supporting so that people can really participate. So I think the question is exactly right. We've done a lot of great work, and that is absolutely under the leadership of Elena Martinez as our language access coordinator, and we need to sustain that. We need to sustain the phone number you can call and get a number of answers on the line. And so, you know, to me, there are ways that we need to formalize that commitment, make sure those things don't go away. I'd like to see requirements in ordinance about language access for the city so that that gets built into our process in a different way. We don't have to always reinvent the wheel. Lots of other communities have done more, are ahead of us, so we are playing catch up a little bit. I also want to say very clear, like, this is an essential commitment. I am not willing to support a city budget that does not include funding for language access to continue this commitment. It is that fundamental in the years ahead. This is not the only program that is that essential to this community that is currently being funded by ARPA, that one-time stimulus money that will run out at the end, I believe, of 2024, like December 2024. Another one is our Malden Cares program, you know, our outreach partnership with Malden Overcoming Addiction. So we have, that's exactly right. We have to build up the tax base so that we can fund these core commitments of the city. I also want to say, I think we can advocate for more support from the state. I worked with Rep. Eltrino to get an earmark last year to help fund some of our like investments, like the headsets and the town hall meetings we've had in language access. We can continue to do that, but I think the state should be paying for communities like Malden who have higher needs for language access and addiction services and lots of other things. Housing, navigation, we can advocate for that as another option to support that work here in Malden. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. And now we're going to move to question number 3 from Arya Shah, and it's about climate change.
Hi everyone, my name is Arya Shah. I'm representing from the Malden Youth Civics Council. How will you mitigate the impacts of climate change around the city in an equitable way? For more context, the city of Malden as a whole is hotter than our surrounding communities due to heat deserts. Some areas, such as Ward 5, are hotter than others due to heat-trapping elements such as turf fields, and as a result, lack shading from trees and green spaces that naturally absorb heat. As a community, we would like to maintain our public green spaces as they positively impact the livelihoods of our families and neighborhoods.
Thank you, Arya. Mr. Spadafora, please.
Sure. I had the pleasure when Councilor Christensen became Mayor Christensen, he put me on the Energy Efficiency Committee. And at the time, I didn't know what any of that meant, and we didn't have a mission statement, we didn't have a goal in terms of how we were going to accomplish such a big task. These are one of those exercises where, first of all, I was proud to be in that committee. Second of all, it is a team game. It is a long game. It still goes on. Council McDonald's on it now. The first thing we did was we put all the streetlights in LED. It might sound like a small commitment, but it was a major investment on our part. We put in we advocated for electric car chargers in the city mall in the garage. Now we have them outside the neighborhood. We set standards with the recycling company at the time, JRM, to increase the recycling. We did education and outreaches. But now we've gone so much further. I know Council McDonald, I want to give credit where credit's due, is really taking this to the next level on that committee, and that's part of the teamwork and the investment going forward. We've taken Honeywell and updated all our public buildings for more energy efficiency. One thing I want to see is We have a stretch energy goal now. I want to see us go the next step further. I want to see us increase our ordinances to make sure that every building development, not only the building but the outside greens, we can have say. The challenge is a lot of these things that come out have by right, meaning the city of Malden has no say. It's by right. And while it's certainly the aesthetics of a building are important, so is the green space, so are the trees. Councilor McDonald mentioned that. We have a state grant to put more trees. We are putting more trees than ever, but the investment in our parks, cleaning up the Fellsmere is we've created a master plan in that water. Really looking around our green spaces. But it comes back to we really need to push on our ordinances to require that. And sometimes it costs more money to the homeowner and the taxpayer, but at the end of the day, there's no price you can put on having a safe and livable environment. And I think those are the things we have to look forward going in the future. Thank you. I don't know who goes.
Yep, yes,
This
Mr.
way, to the
Desai.
right?
Another question on climate change. Basically, whenever I can, I walk. I walk instead of driving. If you can do that, you're saving something. It might be a little bit, but it's better than nothing. What else? The bike lanes might be another thing. It's causing a lot of buildup in traffic, which causes cars to basically idle more, causing more whatever is the emissions and stuff. So that's why, one of the reasons I'm against bike lanes. And recycling is good because that helps, the environment and stuff. And do what you can, do all you can to make the environment safe. That's all.
Thank you. I love this question. When we're talking about protecting the climate in the community, we got to be talking about our kids' world. I mean, the decisions we're making now will impact the heat, the flooding in this community for literally generations. We are across Massachusetts, really across the globe, all trying to get to the target that will keep our climate from spinning out of control. And we can do our part here in Malden. So the Climate Action Plan is a process to coordinate all of that. We've had already hundreds, maybe thousands of folks involved. I want to encourage everyone to remain involved in that process. And it has this equity focus because the impacts of climate change, where is it hottest, that's right, does not impact the city equally. And the places that have denser housing don't have as much green space, and we have to put that at the forefront. And so we can do that first by just making sure that folks who are most impacted have a say in the process. And we also need to make sure that we're shifting from the things that have been maybe the way we've talked about before, recycling. Recycling's great. Recycling is also, frankly, like a little bit of a scam by the plastic companies because it doesn't have that much impact on the environment. It's a good thing to do. I recycle. But what's going to lower my carbon emissions and actually help keep the planet from overheating is if I can switch my gas furnace to an electric heat pump. So that's why we've reached out to Mass Save, and we have a whole community outreach program that is grant funded happening. When you look at what contributes to greenhouse gas emissions in the city, it's almost 2/3 buildings. That means we need retrofitting. That is what the next 10, 20 years looks like. It's also cars and trucks. Good job walking. That's great. But we need to be focusing on where we're really going to have those impacts and making sure that when we focus on the resilience, the areas that we are preparing to deal with climate change, that we're prioritizing those places that are going to be most impacted and people need the most help. The good news is there are a lot of state and federal money right now, so let's go after it.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Now we're going to move to question number 4. Oh,
I wonder if we can use
skipped
this.
you, huh?
It's okay. Let's try.
Is that on?
Hello? Oh, yeah, okay, thanks. Okay, so I also love this question, and we need to be working harder to make sure that we do this in every way possible, like starting in our home, and just like you were saying, walking. So at your home, you can do things. You can call out National Grid. You can come in. You can make sure that your insulation, everything's good in your home so that you're not wasting energy. You can also do it in the community, right, by walking, by trying to use other modes of transportation, and so you're not putting, having more cars on the road. And then we can do it in our municipal buildings, which would be doing making sure that we're preparing ourselves for the future. So I did go to some of the climate action plan forums, and they were great. And I learned a lot there. I sat there and I stayed the whole time, and I asked questions like, what exactly can we do? Like, help me understand things that we can do. And one of the things that really came out to me was the idea of, they called it a specialized stretch code, and basically that was to make sure that we're preparing all of our city buildings, again, for the future. So you don't do it all at once, because that's going to be too much, and we can't take that all on. But what it does is, every new building that comes in here, and anybody that that wants to develop, needs to make sure that their buildings will be able to handle electric charging. And so that's one way that we can start preparing for the future. Because again, yeah, you can't go backwards and start asking people to rip things out, even though that would be great. I have 30 seconds, so I have to add in the Roosevelt Park here. Anyone who is worried about climate change and climate action needs to take a look at Roosevelt Park and what we're doing right there, right now, today. And that is ripping up green space and putting down plastic, toxic turf in a heat island. So when we're looking forward to how we can do things for the past, we need to also looking at the emergency, urgent needs that are right now in our backyard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Now we can move to question number 4.
Hi guys, can you guys hear me? Yeah, you guys can hear me. My name's Eric Key. You guys might have seen me last week. I'm just a member of the community who's very passionate about Malden. I grew up here. I feel very strongly for it, and of course I just want the best for Malden. So my question today is, what is your response to the MBTA zoning decision, and how do you plan to allow zoning to be equitable for the lower income constituents of Malden who would like to keep Malden a family-oriented neighborhood rather than a community of luxury high-rises that cater to higher income individuals? And just for a little bit of context, we understand the appeal to attract commuters to Malden, as is a rapid rail community. However, we do have to fight against the rising prices, which happen as a result of bringing people from other communities simply because they have the ability to pay for the high rent luxury apartments. Families are being pushed out, and that diversity is what has built Malden to be the embracing community we know it as now, and we would like to continue to stabilize our families and our people of color to prevent gentrification.
Thank you, Eric. And now we start with Mr. Desario. You want to repeat the question, Eric?
The MBTA zoning.
Yeah, it's a very long question. Most of it was just context. What is your response to the MBTA zoning decision, and how do you plan to keep the zoning to be equitable for the lower income constituents of Malden who would like to keep Malden a family-oriented neighborhood rather than a community of luxury high-rises that cater to higher income individuals?
Well, I'm against more building in Malden. I think Malden's had enough. Walking around talking to people, a lot of people say it's bursting at the seams, whatever. And I think Malden's had enough building, you know, really. I don't know what to say any more than that.
Well, what I will say is that the attitude that Malden has enough buildings is reflected in our zoning, and it has been deliberately created over time to prevent construction. And there's a term for that. It's not inclusionary zoning, it's exclusionary zoning. And so the MBTA communities piece to this is the state actually stepping in, because so many communities have done this and saying, you have to do these certain things to your zoning. So I very much support Malden complying with this. I've asked at every single public meeting about how affordability is in this and making sure that it will be able to keep our new inclusionary zoning policy. We have to finish that and get those changes approved by December. But then what I really want to do is have a conversation about affordability and zoning in general. I worked with a team of grad students this spring to dig into how could we make it easier to build affordable housing. We have a new affordable housing trust fund that predates me, that is doing great work, and how do we support them? And we can make it easier to build affordable housing by incentivizing that in the zoning. That could look like what they call bonuses. If you are saying people who live here have to meet a certain income threshold, then you might be able to build a two-family instead of a single family. We can create also what's called an affordable housing overlay, which means that, again, if you are meeting those incentives, if you're meeting those income thresholds, we'll make it easier for you to build that housing here, because it is expensive to build affordable housing. You can't charge as much for it. So that's why, in order to make those numbers work, we need to take a look at that. That's something I'm really excited to work on in the next term, a possible affordable housing overlay or some of these bonuses based on affordability. The reality that I hear is that people would love to stay but can't. This is not about bringing people into Malden. It's about helping the people who are already here stay and grow old in place and be able to raise their kids here. And I have to tell you, I hear that in every single neighborhood, and I think it is a moral issue for our city.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Mr. Spadafora, please.
Thank you. I'm going to go back, and I'll start with the tax base, but let me get my head on straight. The MBTA zoning inclusion, I will be very honest with you, is a fraud because it does not mandate affordability. And it's only in cities that are served by the MBTA. If you want to solve Massachusetts' housing problem, extend the housing past Wesley and Linfield and Newton, because that's what's going on here. You want to talk about having more housing, go past the inner cities. But those communities have put up so many walls, literally, in terms of their zoning, you can't build there. And when you talk about density, when you say that, you're right. I hear the same thing, this bursting at the seams. We have to comply with the MBTA zoning agreement. We have to. I agree. We're going to do it. I think what we have to look at is also protecting our communities. I don't have a problem incentivizing to build, but what I don't want to see is at the hands of the developer. We have two projects going to be happening in the city of Malden. One is going to be the old Salvation Army, 100% affordability. That's what you want to see. But we don't have a large plots of land to do this. Because at the end of the day, you can't keep on saying you want to have walkability, green space, less dense, and affordability. We don't have enough space, and that is a delicate balance. We had 16 acres up in the west side of Malden where the hospital was. You know what the residents wanted? Nothing. Nothing. They didn't want housing. So when people tell me they want to see more housing, it's depending where it is. So I think our challenge is we fix the zone. We have to incentivize developers to build it, but more importantly, I want to see affordable ownership. You want to create wealth, you want to keep families here, you want to make minorities stay in the city of Malden, you give them something to own, you give people a place to call their own, they will take care of it. That creates wealth and generational wealth. That's what I want to see. I want to see more ownership, and we can do that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Karen,
Thank you. Yep.
I won't skip you this time.
Okay, thanks. So thank you for that question. And so the MBTA 3A zoning, for anyone here who's not aware, is a state law. The state came down and told us that anyone with public transportation, we needed to build more housing around our transit. So yes, it is sort of being forced down our throat, but it's also because we weren't doing enough. And we do have the Malden train station here. So we need to have and look at zoning, not just around the train stations, but doing our zoning all around the city. We need to find places where, you're right, there's not a lot of parcels that we can be building on. So part of what we were looking at and the affordable housing committee that I'm on is purchasing abandoned properties, some properties that are people aren't taking care of, and then purchasing that and working with partners like nonprofits like AC/DC who will buy that and turn it into affordable housing. But one thing I will say about how the MBTA, when they came to present this, we did push back, and there was a survey that went out to the community, so I'm hoping that people responded to that, and they heard what we said about not wanting a lot of the homes and a lot of buildings being built up here, so they changed it and said that we can do housing with commercial base on there. So that would also increase our tax base. So we need to look at ways that we are going to do this all around Malden, because the fact of the matter is, generational wealth, we cannot increase our generational wealth by having home ownership immediately right now. So right now we have to focus on the immediate problem, get in places that people can afford to live here while they save up to buy homes, just like we all did and just like we want for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. We will now move on into questions from the audience. Anybody has a question?
You never know with these questions.
Yes, please. Someone can give the microphone to me.
Oh, Danielle.
audience questions are being asked on cards and then will be brought up to us to ask. So I think while questions are percolating from the audience, maybe we have time for
One
other question.
Yep. Who wants
So
to?
we know that a priority in our city has been the balancing of needs with traffic, walkability, affordability, many of the themes that we've heard this evening. So I think if we could hear thoughts on traffic in Malden and thoughts on impact of city council on that. And then some of the volunteers could bring the questions up here and we'll be able to ask those of the candidates.
Yeah. Who wants to start?
I'll start
Karen,
since I have it here. Sure. So, big topic, bike lanes, bus lanes, traffic. It's a topic everywhere you go and what you hear. So, yes, we do have traffic in our city. And more cars equals more traffic. So the only way we're going to get to a place, we're never going to cut out traffic, right? But if we try and hit it at different levels, that's what can help. So we can have, the more people, the safer our streets are. We need to make sure that our streets are safe and safe for everyone. Safe for people with mobility issues, safe for people walking, for riding, all of that. So what we need to do is continue to go down the path that we already started with Route 60. I know that sounds like it's people are very angry about that, but we cannot give our money back, and we need to do this, but we need to do it right. And what happened was that plan was laid down without having our traffic signals, electric, working the way they should be in order for us to lessen traffic. So I think that put a really bad taste in people's mouths. Now I'm worried that whenever we talk about bike and bus lanes, that people are just going to have that feeling at Route 60 and how it didn't work. But if we do some simple things, maybe we just have bus lanes during high traffic hours when kids are going to school, and then taper it off after. So it's not traffic all day long, because it is helpful. It's helpful, I've seen and heard from people getting to school on buses. All those kids getting to buses are getting there on time. So I think that that's a good way where we can kind of balance both. Thank you.
My turn? Yes. Lydia? This is a question, I think it's multifaceted, right? I think when you talk about traffic, the first thing is we live in a community with 2 train stations. Yay, right? We got 2 train stations, which is great. The problem is that train station ends in Oak Grove. And a lot of our traffic is coming from the north. They're coming to Malden to access that train. So if you want my truthful answer, we should extend that orange line and go further north to cut down with half the commuters. I live in the West End. The difference between a weekend night and a weekday, a weekend and a weekday is staggering. 80% of the traffic, I believe, in the city of Malden is not Maldonians. It's people coming into the city of Malden. That's the first thing. We can't solve for that. Unless the MBTA and the state comes in and helps us, we can't. The bus and bike, the latest, drama has been the bus and bike lane on Route 60. I'll be honest with you, I don't think the timing of those lights are going to change that. We built that corridor as a commercial corridor. We took a lane away, and forget the bike lane, the bus. And then the state came in and cut the number of buses. It's a challenge. I don't think everybody's going to take the bike lane. I don't think everybody's going to take the bus lane. I don't think every street's conducive to that. They're small streets as it is. But the same token is we have to worry about people taking a bike or whatever means of necessary on certain parts of the city roads. We also have to make sure the sidewalks are maintained for the handicapped, for the elderly. They can walk. So it's not just a multifaceted approach. The other thing is demographics. You look at houses today, you have more than one, you have 3, 4 kids in there. Guess what happens when they're 16? They got 3 cars. So a family 10 years ago, 20 years ago had 2 or 3. They have 5. I have 3 children. One's going to be 16. There's going to be 3 cars in my house. Finally, nobody walks to school. It's a fact. Unfortunately, it's the truth. Whether it be safety or weather, I live across from Elm Street. I'd be happy to show you every day what happens in front of my house at 2:30. They park in front of my driveway every day because parents don't trust their kids walking to school. That's the reality of life. 20 years ago, you had a couple parents pick them up. Unfortunately, now that's part of it. It's more than one issue, but I think our investment in our infrastructure is part of that to make sure that no matter which way you want to walk to get to school, it's a safe route. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spadafora.
Okay, back to the bike lanes. Sorry, but I stand firm against them. I lived in Malden all my life, and for 70-plus years, we did fine without them. I think we could go another, I don't know how many years, but I think we could do without them. As long as we're careful driving, we're safe, we obey the rules, and that goes for the people on the bicycles too. You see them darting out, boom, right away. We lost a life on Broadway not too long ago. That's one life too many. And it happens. There are bad accidents. But as long as people just be courteous and go slow, there shouldn't be a problem. But today's day and age, they're going 90 miles an hour, and it's not good. But I just want to, I mean, you people here are probably safe people, but there's a lot of lunatics out there. I hate to say it. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, they go 100 miles an hour. Where are you going? But I don't know. Back to the bike lanes, I think they're dangerous. I really do. And I don't want to, I have nothing against people on bicycles, believe me. It's a good sport, good way to stay in shape too. But you got to be safe, and the way people drive, on their phones driving, it's not a good idea. Plus, you get the bike lanes. I don't know. It's like it's adding to it. And another thing, you ever see the condition of that street? It's like you're on a roller coaster. Come on, Malden, we can do better than that. Really, how long is it going to be like that for? We got to get these streets nice and flat and smooth so people can enjoy the ride. That's about it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, as anyone who drives outside of Malden also knows, this is a regional problem. This is not just a Malden problem, okay? Like, we have more people who live in Massachusetts. We have an MBTA that does not really work that well most of the time. And so, yes, people are driving, and there's no solution to have dramatically less traffic that doesn't involve getting people out of their cars. I'll tell you one thing that we could do in Malden is explore school buses for our schools again. That would seriously cut down on traffic in the morning, right? That's busing. That would help. So, if we're going to talk about it, let's talk about what's really contributing to it. It's not 3 blocks of bike lanes. That is not creating the speed. I live on Pierce Street. People go 45, 50 miles an hour down that street. This is the fear that I hear. You're absolutely right that people are driving way out of control, and I do believe that our city leaders have a responsibility to say no to that attitude about driving. It is very dangerous. I don't let my kids play out front by themselves. I hear it from seniors, disabled folks, the speeding happening in our residential neighborhoods. So I want to see us cultivate a sense of respect for one another on the roads. That's actually my issue with the concern about this bus and bike lane project downtown. I support the pilot project. We're getting some money for it. We're not paying for it. We would have to pay to rip it out, but we're going to do a traffic study. My concern about the opposition is that it has come off as very anti-bus, anti-bike. I'm not anti-car. I drive. I want us to be having respect for one another on the road in whatever way that we are getting around, and that people have choices, safe choices about the ways that they get to where they need to go. So I would love to see, we have a new transportation planner. That person I know is working on some guidelines for how we put other, striping and flex posts and speed bumps in our neighborhoods to help people drive more respectfully and create some more options. I think we have a lot to do to create more options that really work for people and help alleviate the traffic concern.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Now we're going to move to the, Arya, you have another question?
So this is a question from the audience. What's happening with the Malden Courthouse? What's the plan for its use, and when can it be available?
Thank you, Arya. Mr. Spadafora.
It's a good question. We just received ownership of the Malden Courthouse. I know there was a committee, I don't know if I want to say it was headed by Council Linehan. I know she was involved with that project in a group of civic organizations to look at alternative solutions other than the courthouse. Obviously, it's not going to be a courthouse anymore. To use it for, I think Malden Access TV might have looked at it. I believe some cultural aspect have been looked at it. I believe there's been a plan, or at least a rough plan design And now, you know, it's the $10 million question, no pun, is now we have to pay for it. So I think the plan is to use it as some type of civic building in various facets. I know they've talked about theaters and things like that. All great ideas, certainly, but any idea comes with money, and I think that's the next challenge is finding revenue to fulfill the needs of that building. And I think every council's up here said it, is, you know, the opera money was needed. Certainly the government had to drop that money into all the neighborhoods here, and it worked. That money is going away. And we need to find alternative resources to fill not only the current jobs we have, but there were a lot of programs that got the use of that money. I sat on the nonprofit one. We couldn't give away enough money, to be quite honest with you. There was so many great ideas, but we ran out of money, and unfortunately, there is no refill next year. So I think the challenge will be just getting the resources for that building. But I think it's a great idea what they have on the map. Is that a multi? I think it's gonna be the same answer, but.
Mr.
Carrie?
That's okay.
Oh, I don't.
I have my own mic.
It's okay.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to add that the plan to create a cultural arts center there, I mean, what I love about it is that it's really allowing us to dream as a community about what we can imagine, how we can help the cultural organizations here and our businesses and our restaurants and the life downtown grow. And so a lot of credit to Councilor Linehan for heading this up. I just wanted to say, you know, there's a great project page on the city website, and you can read the full report. They've done a whole revenue study about how to keep it operating. It will take some capital investment. So, you know, when we talk about the long-term city finances, yes, it's to make sure that we can sustain the staff we have now and the work we have now. But I mean, I hope in that there's the sense to dream and imagine. We have some great projects here in Malden, including the Malden River Works project. We want to build a new fire station. I mean, these are just things that, you know, have been in process for years. And so I want to be a part of supporting those things. I know you do too. And I hope that's part of the conversation. That's just what I wanted to add.
Who goes next?
Mr. Desai.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that subject. I got to pass.
Okay, so that's fine, and we need to get better at letting the people know what is going on in our city. So if you're involved and you're not aware of it, that's a big sign to us. So anyway, and that's not anything on Councilor Linehan. She's done a great job with that. So I have spoken with Councilor Linehan on a couple of things, and they are right now, I asked for an update. It's in my ward, and I'm all about the culture and arts, and I can't wait to see it happen. So right now, what she told us was that it is in a revenue study. So they're doing a revenue study and a business plan to see how that would work. And it's including all of our nonprofit and groups. Malden Arts, Malden Cultural Council, people are on it. And anyone there that has, I'm thinking maybe the 57, those groups. So they have a lot of good heads around the table trying to figure out how this can work. But one of the things to bring back revenue, because you're right, a question of mine, even though I think this is wonderful, these are one of the things that I say would be a dream to have, but knowing what our finances look like and knowing the liabilities that are coming down the road, we have court cases coming up, we have the Volk pieces coming up, we have ARPA going away, so many things that this worries me, so that's why I reached out to her. But they are working hard at building a plan where it could happen. And some of that would be, let's say, holding events, building back, events that would bring people here to Malden, concerts, youth work, maybe having some, you know, kids do work in there and charge money for it. So I am hoping that this does go through, but it's definitely going to be a tough ask, which, you know, because of what we have coming down the road. And I support, though, everyone that is working on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Do you have another question? Gladys? Go ahead, please.
Okay. This is a question from the audience. Compliance with public records law is crucial to transparency. And it depends on what we believe and what is transparency. What will you do to assure the city is keeping its records in a way to make those records easily accessible to the public?
Thank you, Gladys. Mr. McDonald.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And public records laws, as folks may know, are state laws, and so we do have to comply. And in fact, I think, added a staff position in the last year just to respond to public records requests. So yes, I of course support us being in compliance with state law. What I also want to say is, it's helpful to be able to have access to city records, but what I think the standard we should be going for is, can people meaningfully know what's going on in the city? And that's a little bit different than saying you can request any particular document. I think this involves redesigning the way that we approach our work as city councilors to make it easier to understand what's happening on a Tuesday night if you watch a meeting, to know what's coming up, to get out of some of the technical language and put things in plain language. It's really about designing a process that allows people, it's not just for us. Right now, I think the process is designed for us as city councilors, as elected officials. We know what the docket is, we know what the backstory is, but what would it be like if we designed a process that helped people understand what these things meant? And there was a screen when you go by City Hall that shows you what's on conversation, and here's how you can participate, and here's how you can submit your comment. I mean, I just think that's such a fundamentally different way of doing business. It's something that really excites me. I'd love to work more on, but I think that's how far we would need to go to get beyond, just trying to hope people catch things on Facebook. We're all communicating the best that we can, but could we reimagine the way that we're inviting people into our civic life that makes it possible for them to really see and understand and contribute to what's going on? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Okay, citizens' participation. I think councilors should have a duty to, like, for instance, Deva Park. To be honest with you, I think it's an embarrassment. 2 years, the place was shut down, fences all around the place, and the neighbors, I walk around the place a lot, talking to them, and they're pretty disgusted. I mean, they're going to have a ribbon ceremony, whatever, grand reopening. What's this, a supermarket? It's a park. It's like they took a parking lot that was in the park, they covered it up, I guess it's grass now, and now there's street parking. I don't know, it just didn't make any sense to me. And like, what I would do is just go right around the outskirts of the park and see what they would like. Because they're the people that look at the park every day, and they have a better idea of it, especially for the ones that have been there a while. When you talk to those people, a lot of them aren't too happy, but that's why, there has to be more communication between, like, the councilors and the people that live around, whatever area needs to be, fixed or whatever, and what they would like to see. And then take a, majority of, make a decision like that. That's about.
It's a tough act to follow,
Oh, come on, yeah.
Regarding the public record rule, I mean, I think Council McDonald, we had to hire additional staff. We've seen an uptick in those requests. I don't think there's been any compliance. I know where there's a time limit. I know that we've had, and it is every citizen's right to request those records. Some have asked for, thousands of records based on communication, and that's fine, but it does take a certain amount of time to get those rendered. We had to actually hire some temp to help with that request, but it's going forward. That is set and mandated by the state. I think what the challenge is, I hear the word transparency a lot, and I've been a counselor for going on almost, a decade and a half, and we communicate with the public more ways now than ever. And unfortunately, you look at this room, and it's not packed, because I'm sure we all told everybody on social media to come here. Council McDonald and I always have the debate about the financial, he's the budget director, and I say to him, it disgusts me that we pass a almost $200 million budget and nobody shows up. Nobody shows up. So I think the challenge now is all the means of communication. Now we've got a technology policy, which is great. We're going to do videos of all the committee meetings, which is great. We have to maintain those records forever. So all those videos, which is, I'm not saying is a bad thing, but now we have to archive them in a system. We have to have storage, and there's a monetary piece of that. Again, I'm not complaining about that, but we need more people just to maintain those systems. And setting up a web meeting, the council it's not easy. Especially if you have 3 or 4 committee meetings going on, you need 3 or 4 links going on. We break it all the time. So there's a staffing need there, but I think we've fulfilled our duty in terms of the state of fulfilling all those requests. I know there's been some timetables that we've been up against the wall just because of the large number, but I think it's a good problem to have. Thank you.
No, you.
Hi, thank you. So, I have a couple of things to say about the transparency issue. I think for public record requests would go down if we were more transparent with what is going on. So that doesn't mean telling people what has happened after the fact, but if we tried, and I agree with you, we could probably tell people in all different ways, and you're always going to miss somebody, but if you try and get as much information out there to the people, I think people will trust and not have to feel like they have to request public record laws, all the time. So, and I do know that we had to hire somebody else to do that. So it's something that's going to continue until we figure out how to make sure that people understand what's going on and trust people. I really think it comes down to that. I post my agendas every single week on my Facebook page. I get out to people what's coming up. I try and let them know. And our public records requests need to be given out. It's a law. It's people are asking questions. They have to be given the information in a timely manner. I also have some concerns about where our records are. The last I heard, this could have changed, but I think we were using some of the storage in the Oak Grove Community Building for record storage. I'm not sure if that's still happening, but that we need to get better on where it is and have easy access on how people can get that information quicker. It's your information. You should be able to get that in a timely manner. And no one should be chastised or made to feel bad because they want some public records that they pay for with their taxes and that they need for whatever reason it is. So, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. We're going to have last question from the audience. Eric, please.
Okay, so can you guys hear me? Okay, so it seems like this question is directed towards Councilor Cologne Hayes. What would you say to the constituents who feel betrayed that you would use taxpayer money to self-benefit, as seen in the Malden Advocate front page?
Sure.
Mrs. Spadafora, please.
No, that's me.
You're going to?
Yeah, right? It was to me.
Was it for you, exactly?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh.
Okay. So thank you for that question. I could not tell enough, and say enough about this to let the people know what happened, right? So probably one of the biggest lessons I have learned, and I don't know if people know what's happening, but back in 2017, I was running the youth employment program, and I did a great job at it. We ran with a team, and as it grew, Kelly Collum and I split tasks because it was so huge, but everyone was always involved. Our mayor's office was involved, our HR offices was involved, and we had a very transparent and open interview process. We did that on purpose. We actually were examples to the state on how transparent that our process was. So we had community members come in and they actually interviewed people. I never interviewed my daughters. I never interviewed my daughters, like friends. It was made public for that way. Just so that this didn't happen. Because when I took over, I was told that's what happened. Everybody's kids and daughters and friends got jobs. I didn't want it that way. I am a very inclusive person and transparent person, and so I worked hard to do that. So what had happened was after I had left office, a couple of years maybe went down, the second I announced that I was running for office, there was a claim against me. So I have 30 seconds. This would take hours. I would have a whole forum on this. I would actually love to have that with the people in the city and sit down here and let's ask the questions. Because that was one of the most difficult times I have been through because it went against something that I try so hard not to do. It was the exact opposite. So big lessons learned. Don't listen to all the advice that you get. Definitely, and do your own homework.
Thank you, Karen.
And thank you so much. Thank you.
And now we're going to move on to the closing statements. For the closing statements, you're going to have 1.5 minutes, and we're going to start with Mr. McDonald.
Thank you. When I think about what makes Malden special, it's really the incredible mix of people that are here. I mean, it's such a wonderfully diverse community. That's why we moved here, why Sarah and I are raising our kids here. It's why many of us have moved here, and why we stay, and why we want to invest in this community. And diversity isn't always easy. To be a leader in a diverse community means you have to listen, you have to learn, you have to grow, you have to reach out to people who maybe aren't used to having their voices heard. So I want to give you my commitment that I'm going to do whatever I can to be a leader, hopefully one of many, that lives up to what we love about Malden. And I really want to thank you for putting your trust in me, in electing me as a city councilor at large. It's been an incredible honor to serve in this role. I hope to do it well into the future. If you are interested in getting more involved in my campaign or learning more about me, you can visit my website. It's mcdonaldformalden.com. You can also call me. My cell phone number is 781-627-5506, or text. And I really just appreciate how you all have shown up tonight. It really matters. One person can make a huge impact in local elections like this. Your voice matters. Your vote matters. Please vote on November 7th. I ask for your vote and for your support. And please remember, you can vote early, the 2 weeks before the election, not the week of the election, but the 2 weeks before, or request a vote by mail. Thank you so much. And I, again, ask for your support to continue the honor of serving in this role.
We said save it at the end. I'm watching.
All right. Okay, I just want to end this by saying it's not over yet. It's another less than a month to go, and I've enjoyed just going out and meeting people, shaking hands, and trying to meet people. Some people, it's kind of tough. A lot of people don't vote, believe it or not, whether they want to or not, or whether it's the language barrier, but you got to take your chances. And I found that if I could just meet one person a day, I've done my job, and it's a good feeling. It's like some people will say, well, thanks for coming out. And that makes you feel good because your day wasn't wasted. And you can feel like, like you connected with somebody. And when you do that, it's a good day. And that's all you want. You know what I mean? We're going to do good. And I hope you'll vote for me next month. Thank you very much.
You gotta give him a clap. I mean, you gotta break the rule. You gotta break the rules. I'll start with the ask, and I humbly request just one of the 3 votes. First, let me humbly ask you to vote. It's an important thing that a lot of people in this country have died for. There's countries that would die to have this ability to vote in a democratic process. So please vote November 7th, and consider me one of your 3 votes. I also, I can talk about what I think I've accomplished, but I think the important thing here is to put yourself on a stage like this. Any one of these 4 councils up here, it is not easy to knock on a door and to run for office. It's therapeutic. It's the hardest thing I've had to do, even in the grad school. So regardless if you think somebody's opinion is not agreeing with yours, I think you got to give credit to credit due as they put themselves out there to run for office. And I think that's the lesson I learned, is you'll learn a lot of things running for office. You'll learn who your friends are. You'll learn who your foes are. You'll learn about community members you're never going to meet in your circles of friends. And I've had that opportunity to go. One of my favorite parts of the day, and everybody knows, is I love to feed the elderly. I like to go to the buildings and talk to them and hear about their stories and how they remember Malden and the good things. I will just tell you, I promise to continue, I think, where Malden's going. It's not by accident, but we have to do it in a systematic and specific way. And that takes a lot of work, and it certainly takes a teamwork. And I can say I think this council's done a tremendous amount of job in the last 2 years, along with the mayor's office. And I continue moving forward. I would just like to be one of those members of the team. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey. So, thank you very much. I also would like to ask that everybody get out to vote. Vote on November 7th, and I hope that you give me one of your 3 votes for City Councilor at Large. What I want to hit home here is that my love of Malden started 30 years ago. I have never stopped working for Malden. I have worn so many different hats. I will not be going away. I will always be here. So I sit and I love the City Council. I love going to the meetings and doing policy work, but I also love the Friends of Oak Grove, that what we do there. I love being on the North Shore Hispanic Association. I love being on the Metro North Housing Corp, where we work for affordable housing, on the Malden River, like I've been joining in there. I'm on Zonta. I just got a new Girl Scout group. So Malden is my home, and I love it. I love everything about it. I love you people, and I'm hoping that you just keep me here because nobody will work harder. Anyone who knows me knows I have energy that is unlimited. So please give me another chance. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for taking the time to join our forum and learn more about the candidates for this upcoming municipal election taking place on November 7, 2023. We apologize if we were not able to get to all the audience questions. However, we would like to remind you all that Meet the Candidates for School Committee will be held on the 25th of October at 6, and you can register at the Chinese Cultural Council. And special thanks for the candidates who gave us the time, and they were willing to listen to all these questions. And now I can give you a big thank you so much.